Yeah. So the number one thing that I have managed to do this month was work with Ishan to get to the current Apollo server version 4 from the backward version 2. So right now we are currently using the latest Apollo server version 4.7. So let me just run the development server. So like you can see, there are a lot of env variable faults, and even then the server will still start, even if there are some other logging issues. It starts over here in this route. So this is what the new looks like. The new landing page looks like, where you can directly select what type of query do you want to do, whether it's a query, mutation, subscription, etc. You can start by just adding the query, whatever you want. Like let's say I want checkout, you can just directly add the field inside that. Let's see, if you run the query, I can see that user is not authenticated. So let me just log in here. The number one difference you can see from the version 2 landing page is that the variables can be defined like this. So here it will be a lot easier to compartmentalize your variables and complex objects to make use in your mutation in whatever operation you're doing in the server. So let's say I log in, right? I have this access token and I have this user ID. So let me just get this access token. And let's say the authentication is done with this header right here. So the authorization, and there is the bearer token. Right now we can just do this. And if I check path, yeah, so as you can see, this works. But if I don't add the header and do it, then yeah, so basically it checks the authentication and stuff, which is the logic is pretty much the same as it was before. So there has been no change in the logic, and I think after installing the latest packages, it will remain stable for a while. So a lot of security checks. So you can also handle multiple queries which will remain saved in your studio, and every time you open, you can see your previous work that you have done in the studio. So it remains saved. So you need not worry about your work being lost due to closing of the studio or the server. There is also this thing, schema. So here right now you can take a look at the entire schema, how many queries we have, how many mutations, what all mutations we have. This is of course because of the inconsistency with the documentation, but I think you can take a look into that, why there is no description. So, and there is the HDL. So it is basically the complete introspection schema, which will come in important when I'm discussing the versioning. So the schema difference. So for some things you will need to log into your Apollo account, but this is the basic of how it is going to work. There are also a lot of changes to the subscriptions and the directives, which is just in code. So I don't think I can show it to you like at runtime, but you can check out the code for that and what changes I've made with the PR in the Talawai API. So this was the complete migration of Apollo server version 2 to version 4. The second thing I wanted to discuss was the API versioning.
Okay, hang on. Hold on before you go. Could you go back to that previous screen?
The studio?
Yes.
Studio screen? Yeah.
How did you get to the schema? What button did you press?
Oh yeah, this is the navigation.
Okay.
Let me just go to schema. and this is the complete schema, how many objects, scalars, and everything. The complete schema definition is in here.
Okay, and that's a standard part of Apollo 4, or is that one of the features that we had implemented with the schema stuff in the PR, in the PR workflow?
This is no. This is actually related to the improvements in the server migration.
Okay, good. That's a really good feature too. All right. And I'm glad to see the modifications and the fact that you can do the authentication tokens, etc., and the fact that you can push the data in a separate window. That's really good. So before we continue, I know that at one point we were thinking about migrating to Yoga. At this point, now that we're at Apollo 4, does it make sense to go to Yoga, or should we stick with Apollo for the immediate future? What's your opinion?
Right now, yesterday, Kevonia, Rumon, and I had a meet, and we were discussing exactly that, like what to do from here. So basically, what we had decided was, right now, because the server has already been migrated to a version which is the latest stable version and will remain stable for around 2 or 2.5 years, without end of life cycle of the major features. I think it wouldn't make sense to waste a lot of time in your migration right now. But after the GSoC period, after a lot of important features have been implemented, like the GraphQL error handling, the data loader, the PR security, I think we can legit migrate it to Yoga. It does make sense after GSoC, that is, when you don't have the same time constraint.
All right, so that might be good. And what advantages does Yoga have over Apollo version 4 that makes it so compelling to move to Yoga?
Well, number one, a lot of the features are plugin based, so it reduces the size of what kind of server we are using, because unlike Apollo, some features that we do not need, we did not install in GraphQL Yoga. So the number one is the size optimization. The number two is, at least for me, what I had checked out was it that internally it uses the file blob in the browser for the file uploads, unlike Apollo server, which depends on some other services or some other third-party libraries like GraphQL upload. Adarsh and I had a conversation about GraphQL upload and its problems. The main problem was the CSRF attacks are very common when the multi-part form uploads are enabled, which is what GraphQL upload does. So, yeah.
Okay. So
unlike Yoga, that is.
Okay. Yeah. So those sound like really important features, especially the security aspects of it, especially if you do something in the cloud. So I interrupted you, and you're about to show something else. What was that?
Yes. So the second thing I wanted to show was the versioning. We were having some trouble with the client side developers having difficulty with comparing the schema changes in the backend, not reflecting accurately in the front end queries, right? So because of that, a lot of queries are breaking, and there was a lot of confusion as to why it is happening, and etc. So what I did was added a CI/CD check to in the Talava admin project that allows the client side queries to be generated, and then to check whether the queries are consistent with the schema definition in the backend. So first I will just show you the PR. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this was the PR that was merged yesterday, and I'll just show it to you what this check which was added does exactly. Starting from these two, it checks out the repository, sets up node. It installs this package called GraphQL Inspector. GraphQL Inspector globally. Now, what GraphQL Inspector does is basically it is the tool that we are using for the validation of the documents. So basically, what we are going to do, in memory, I clone the Parisara Salava API project, and within the API project there is this file, schema.graphql, which is the source of truth of the entire schema in the API. So anything that the API contains will be reflected on the schema.graphql file. And at each commit, if there is a change in the GraphQL, it will go through the Husky hook and then add the relevant changes to the schema before committing. So that makes it consistent with what exactly are the type definitions in the backend. Moving on to the front end, basically, let's say there are two files in the front end. Let me just open it. Yeah, there is the mutations.ts, which basically defines all the queries or mutations within the admin project. There is the queries, and there is the mutations, and there is its queries. So what it does, this check, it basically runs this command. It validates all of those files recursively and then checks whether they are consistent with the schema.graphql. And what it returned was 3 invalid documents, which is and log these 3 errors. These 3 errors are because there are a few queries where let me just search on this. Let's say it is returning cannot query field this on type mutation. So okay, it's in mutation. Yeah, so basically it is an inconsistent or deprecated usage of this field. So that is why the CI/CD check had logged this error. The same for other two, and it basically shows where exactly the error is in which file, which was in this file, mutation.ts file, which is where we found this. So this is basically deprecated, and it cannot be queried or mutated at least. So that's how the CI/CD works for the API version. It basically validates queries. The second thing that I wanted to add.
Hang on.
So
hold on. Can you go back to that screen, please? The one with the PR.
Yeah.
Scroll up to like line 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we have on line 7. It says that you've detected 3 invalid documents. One of the things that we have as an issue just generally is that people see error messages and they don't exactly know what to do. And I understand that what we have here states exactly what is wrong. The fact that you cannot query field, update plugin status, okay, right? Whatever we have on line 13. But it would be good to have some sort of output echoing to say that any errors that may occur below are because of inconsistencies with the admin schema and that of the API, and that the API schema should take precedent. Just having text like that would then allow people to say, oh, now I understand what line 10 means in context, because there's no context here. It's not a technical, right? It's not a technical criticism that I'm having. It's a constructive criticism stating that it's not intuitive in terms of the errors. And so what that means is that I'm looking at it from my perspective and the mentor's perspectives, because what usually happens is that when somebody doesn't understand what's going on, they then ping one of the mentors or me, and I have my days interrupted trying to explain this stuff repeatedly. And so if you have that information available as a part of the error, then I think that'll help with the workload of some of the supporting team. Okay.
Oh yeah, that is actually a great suggestion that you have given. I think what we can do is, after the check has been done, if there is an error, we can echo why exactly there is an error, and basically write a few paragraphs. What can the owner of that PR do to rectify those errors? I think that could be a good addition to this trip.
Yeah, you don't have to make it very logic intensive. You could just put the message for every single PR, which says if there's an error, this is what it's most likely would be. Because usually what happens is that if there's logic, it's more likely to break. So let's try and keep it simple. So there was something else that you were going to show just after I interrupted you. So please share your screen and show that again.
Yeah, it is not related to the work I have done, but basically what could be a good addition. And I also wanted the opinion of the Talava admin developers for this thing. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's sharing.
Okay, so there is this thing. The GraphQL inspector can also show the coverage of the documentation. So basically, let's say that you are querying this, so it will return how many types you have covered, how many fully covered, how many fields have been covered, and how many queries have been covered. So would you like check that displays this kind of information, so that let's say some new schema changes related to some new features are being added to the schema in the backend. It won't be exactly related to the front end because it's not exactly a breaking error, but it can show but I think it would be useful to show the client side that, hey, this has been added to the backend, and whether you want to cover it or not, it's fully up to you. So should we display this information in CI/CD check?
Does anybody have an opinion on that? Mentors, any opinion?
Hi. So is it giving the percentage of the query or mutation that are consumed by the admin or are not consumed by the admin?
Both. Yeah. Let's say I have some schema, let's say query, right? There are some like 10 fields that I'm querying. But in the client side, let's say I'm the actual query that I'm exporting as a GQL string. The actual query is basically just using the 6 of those fields. So I think that could be related to the PR, right? So that is the main thing.
So does everybody feel that this is something that we should add or not? I think, in my opinion, the more information that we have, the better. Do you think that it would be useful in terms of people actually taking action based on that information? So, for example, this information is going to be, okay, but where's this information going to be presented? Is it going to be presented in the error output of the PR workflow, or is it going to be presented somewhere else?
It will be, yeah, like you said, the error output of the PR, but it won't be actually error. It just will be information, like a code of coverage, let's say.
Can we add it as a comment in the pull request with the bot?
No, not the comment in the pull request, in the terminal, in the check.
Okay.
Is it only going to be one report? Just that single table, or is it going to be multiple tables?
Multiple tables, I think.
And it should be one table per mutation / query?
Per file, that is.
Okay.
Like for all the mutations, it will release, yeah.
Okay.
And for all queries.
I think if that's the case, that's just going to be a lot of information that may overwhelm people at this time. So let's leave it out for now. And then...
Kanishka, by the way, do you find any other project using it? using this?
I'm sorry.
Are you finding any other projects using this, this step or within the project?
Are you talking about GraphQL Inspector in general or just because?
Yeah, in general, like, are there projects using it or is it being used for a very specific purpose?
Yeah, GraphQL Inspector actually is majorly when it comes to this kind of things. But usually it works with a deployed instance of GraphQL API and then GitHub action of the given repository. I think you can DM me, and there are actually 3 different kind of things that you can GraphQL Inspector. That is the GitHub action, the CI, and the CLI. So, because we don't have the GraphQL the GraphQL server is deployed somewhere, I'm using CLI within the CI, which is not used in the industry. But since we have not deployed, we cannot really use the full power of GraphQL. So I have to find turnarounds here and there.
Yeah, I think at this point we should leave it out, just because of the fact that it could drown out other errors that people are looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe when the code is a little more stable, we can think about it. But it's good to know that we have that option. All right, thanks a lot, Kanishka. Yeah. Anybody has any further questions for Kanishka?